How's it going, everybody? It is time for Ask Me Anything About Politics. So if you got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it, and so I like to make myself available to answer people's questions about it. And then you don't got to worry about, seeming uninformed or silly because I am not that kind of fella. I do not judge people for trying to learn new things. I'm not. This is one of those shows where I yell at you for having different political opinions than me. I am not here to roast you or debate you or ridicule you. I am just here to answer good faith questions about politics. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. It can feel like you're trying to learn a new language because we refer to people by just their last names, or we just refer to these three-letter agencies by their abbreviations, like, if you don't know what USAID is, if you don't know what the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is, it can be really, difficult to try to parse those things out. And so, you don't need to worry about. MJ says Republican support is tanking. Yeah, maybe, but we still have to do the work. The Republican Party has a way of never fully going away because of propaganda and misinformation. So yeah, any questions, just let me know. There's no roasting, there's no debating, there's no judgments here. I am just here to answer all of your questions about politics. MJ says, were the accelerationists right? No, I do not think that the accelerationists were correct. John Stamos, oh my God, oh wow, what a compliment. Good Lord, John Stamos, stop it. You're going to make me blush, investing prime. So yeah, were the accelerationists right, MJ? The answer is no, because here's the thing. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Right now, the Republican Party is still in charge. Donald Trump is still in charge. The Supreme Court is still a 6-3 majority for the conservatives. And so we're in a very precarious position. So yeah, maybe if accelerationism is the move, then we will see some sort of I don't know, massive shift in who is in control in our government after the midterms. But right now, it's still really scary. So, there are a lot of people who are being hurt. There are a million plus people that are going to die because of cuts that Doge and Trump have made already. A lot of people are going to have a harder time surviving because cost of living is going to keep on going up. Stores are going to potentially have empty shelves. Yeah, it is a really terrifying place to be right now. And so I do not think that the accelerationists were correct in putting us into this position. All right, Colin, good to see you again. Is organized crime connected to the politically connected elite? Potentially. I don't know anything specific about that, though. Wanderer says, how many parties in U.S. history? Example, I think you mean the Whigs, not the Wings. And I don't have a current tally of how many political parties there have ever been. Sheep Begone says, why are Democrats weenies? I don't think Democrats are weenies. I think that we're very brave and cool, and we fuck, So When Win says, what is neoliberalism? Who believe in it? So neoliberalism is kind of the word for the soft Democratic Party that we had after the Reagan administration, where they had to be more business friendly, they had to be more accepting of capitalism and the free market economy. They had to be more in favor of globalization, which was something that industry was really interested in because it was going to lower costs it was going to lower their overhead, and then they're going to be able to lower prices for the consumers, and Americans were going to be able to afford all the various luxuries that we had in the past. You guys have to excuse me for 1 second. My boss's dog is losing his mind. I'll be right back. 1 second. Forgive me if I don't trust you with that stuff, Dobert. Okay, I'm back. Alrighty. All right, scrolling down to the bottom of the TikTok comments. Hey, Lauren, you're my favorite too. Colin says, how did the U.S. get to a two-party system, unlike other countries that use coalitions? That's kind of a massive question, and unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you, my man, Colin. So sorry about that. Oh boy. Kenneth Hamilton says, is Trump a Russian asset? I don't know if he is or not, but he's acting exactly like one, so I couldn't tell you. Let's see here. Ray says the shelves aren't going empty. Not yet, Ray, but we will see what happens in a couple of weeks. User a bunch of numbers says, what will the next major event in U.S. politics? I mean, I don't know what the what do you call it? I don't know what the if there's going to be any like emergencies or anything like that. But like the next big election is going to be 2026, and everybody should be mobilizing for that. All right, let's see what do we got here. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Chris says, how do we get the price of eggs to go down? So I think the number one thing that we need to do for egg prices is to deal with the bird flu epidemic that is currently raging through America. Unfortunately, we do not have someone in, what do you call it? We do not have somebody in charge of Health and Human Services who believes in things like viruses and bacteria and shit like that. RFK Jr. is a psychopath who has cut services that are going to put Americans at risk. He dismantled the Narcan program, which protects people from opioid overdoses. So now people are going to be, dying of opioid overdoses more now, thanks to him. And he's just letting bird flu run rampant because he believes that that's the move. He thinks that that's great because then all the birds will get bird flu and they will become immune to bird flu. But then a whole bunch of birds are going to die in the process. Also, the virus is going to continue to mutate, so it could potentially jump from birds to mammals, from various farm animals to human, and then we'll all be susceptible to bird flu. So we're kind of fucked there. I guess I suggest everybody continue wearing a mask. Let's see here. My boss's dog will not be ignored. I'm telling him I'm talking about politics here, Dauber. You gotta fucking go play with your toy or something. I got you water. Alrighty, let's see here. Ray says RFK is great. That's not a question, Ray. That's your first warning. And if you say something else that's not a question, you're gonna get blocked. Let's see here. That dog is cute. Terrell's top pick says conservative or liberal. Liberal. Wenwin says, "Are we could decentralize production?" If you could clean up that question, that would really help me out. Scoo says, "RFK trying to save us." RFK doesn't give a shit about trying to save anybody, guys. Let's see here. Okay. All right, scrolling down to the bottom of the TikTok comments. Q Dog says, I have a question. Well, go ahead and answer it. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming to the live stream. Welcome. You can ask me anything that you like. If it is a question, I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what your political ideology is. I will give you an answer and I will respond in good faith. If there are people on here who are Republicans or right wing and you want to engage, I'm ready to engage with you. I don't care if you're further to the left of me or further to the right than me. There's no roasting. There's no debating. There's no ridicule. I'm just here to answer your good faith questions about politics. Sometimes I get a little spicy if people get spicy to me in the comments, but mostly I just try to be as sober and sincere as I can in all of my answers to your political questions. The dog's name is Daubert. Let's see here. Kirsten, that is very funny. Green Dream 724 says, what would it take to change our single president model to a council? I mean, that's a massive project, Green Dreamer. I think first things you would have to do is change the Constitution, which would require 2/3 of the state legislatures just to form a constitutional convention. And then you need to build support for that idea in the populace so that, and then we would have to elect people to those positions who would be amenable to making that change. So yeah, that sounds like a 100-year project, if anything. All right. Lauren says, is there an undo button for after? Unfortunately not. We kind of have to own the fact that we elected that idiot psychopath twice. Michelle says, what's happening with Canada? The only thing I know about what's happening with Canada is that the Liberal Party fucking crushed it. Trump is ruining politics everywhere for the right wing. So congratulations. That's the one good thing that Trump did, was that he elected a bunch of liberals in Canada. Dad's Link says, can AOC be president? And who would vote for her? I mean, I'd vote for her. I mean, I would vote for her above any Republican. And yeah, she can be president. I believe she just has to wait until she's 35, and I think she's 33 now. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see here. Colin says, do you know why the U.S. doesn't allow the average citizen to vote on whether to allow the tariffs? So, because we have a representative democracy, we do not get to vote on all the decisions that our representatives make. The entire idea is that we elect people that we trust to make these complicated decisions so that we don't have to have elections every fucking day where we're deciding on all the different minutia of government. So yeah, there are certain things that we do get ballot referendums on, and that's more of a state issue as opposed to a federal issue. And when you see with red states, people will tend to vote for referendums that mirror the Democratic platform, and then the Republicans who are in charge will just ignore the will of the people in that way. It is one piece of a million pieces of evidence that I have that people do not understand what the platform of the Democratic Party is and how good it is, because otherwise they would just vote for them instead of the Republicans, who are not going to respect the will of the voters. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Kaylee, I always punt on that question because I'm trying to keep people focused on the midterms and not 2028. Miranda says, who has the power of the purse? Congress has the power of the purse. Marcia says, weird how the government can lure business back here with all the freeness, but won't feed children. Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump is talking about, buying Greenland and giving everybody that live there like $10,000. And it's like, oh, why would we do that when instead we could feed people or have free public college or universal health care or shit like that? Is it that much more important to you that we just give 10 grand to every person that is living in Greenland right now? Fucking psychopath. All right, scrolling down the bottom, user a bunch of numbers says, did Trump's taxes stay in place through Joe Biden's presidency? The answer is yes. Daniel Strife said, who'd you vote for? Democrats up and down the ballot. Cosmically Plur says AOC can pick up Kamala's platform, 4% excise tax on stock buybacks, 28% corporate tax rate. Maybe, I don't know. Tyro Pillar says, I got a little more insight into the question I DM'd you. I agree proper representation is important, but the infighting is making it hard to make it productive. You never told me the far left went that. I'm guessing you say far? But yeah, I don't really view the left wing of this country as being extremists. They're pretty reasonable in my opinion. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Colin says, how transparent is political funding in the United States? It is exactly zero transparent, thanks to the Supreme Court decision Citizens United. They made it possible for unlimited dark money contributions to our political candidates, which is the reason why we're in the nightmare hellscape that we're in today. Malcolm Miner says, I am a high school student wanting to get into politics. Where do I start? You can start right here, Malcolm Miner. You can ask me any question that you like. I would recommend checking out like a daily news roundup podcast, because then you can start learning the little bits of the language of being into politics. And if you start getting into it in a big way where you want to like really do more, I would say find a political candidate that you vibe with and go volunteer for their campaign. And you will learn more about politics doing that than through any book. You can also join my Discord because I have a bunch of book recommendations on there for people that want to learn more about politics. And there are some really good books on there to get you started in your journey. But welcome, Malcolm. Thank you for being here. Google Buddy Boy says, cucks for Kamala. Yeah, the Democratic Party is a big tent. So we had cucks, and we have alpha males like myself who like fuck constantly and are really good at pleasing women. Let's see here. Scrolling down to the bottom. Let's see here. Bryce says, what's your opinion on abortions? I don't really have my strong opinion is that we need to go back to the way it was when we had the Roe protections for women's bodily autonomy. The abortion bans that are happening in red states right now, they're not working. They're not decreasing abortions. All they're doing is making being pregnant more dangerous for women. There are at least 4 women who have died the last time I checked, and it's probably more at this point. There are a lot of women who have been tortured because of these abortion bans. They have not been able to get medically necessary abortions, and they've been told to just go bleed out in the parking lot and hope that things get bad enough that I'll eventually get to save your life. Doctors, OBGYNs, gynos are fleeing red states because they do not want to be legally liable for not being able to save a woman's life or wanting to save a woman's life or saving a woman's life and then being thrown in jail for it, So yeah, if you're somebody that does not want abortion, then let's talk about ways that we can decrease the number of abortions. We can, increase funding for family planning, make contraceptives more widely available. We can make, childcare less expensive. Part of the reason why people get abortions is because they can't afford to have kids. So let's make their lives so that they can afford to have kids, like by raising the minimum wage, universal pre-K, free public college, things like that. I don't think it's a coincidence that those are the exact policies that the Republican Party is against at the same time as they're trying to make abortion illegal. So it seems, from my perspective, that what they actually want is not to decrease the number of abortions, but increase the number of accidental pregnancies and then force women to keep those children because they want people who are desperate, because desperate people don't have time to organize or vote or find a better job or go to college and shit like that. It is the foundation of the Republican platform that the 99% become desperate fucking wage slave serfs like in the medieval times, and then rich people get to be the lords that rule over all of us, and they're eating fucking lobster and caviar 3 meals a day on their private jets, going between any one of their 10 mega mansions, while we're all fucking struggling to survive with three jobs, working 80 hours a week. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Trump is speeding up white replacement. Most abortions come from Browns. Should be no issue. Tommy, I don't think that what you're saying is accurate or in good faith. So consider yourself on notice. Colin says, do you think with polarization the U.S. will split into two? No, I do not. Because as polarized as people are, we're all living together. There are purple states and purple cities as much as there are red states and blue cities, etc. So, I don't think that, an even split is something, is something that is logistically possible. Alrighty. Daubert is currently sitting on my jacket, and I think he's doing it because he's mad at me. Let's see here. User bunch of numbers says, why didn't Biden put his own tax plan in when he was president? So presidents don't just get to put tax plans in, user a bunch of numbers. They need Congress to vote on them. Now, for 2 years, Democrats had control of both the House and the Senate. So they did have some leeway for actually passing legislation. It was difficult, though, because the two most conservative members of the Democratic Party, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, were being very vocal about saying, like, here are the things that we are not going to put up with. They were being real fucking stick in the muds. Joe Manchin gets a lot of money from the fossil fuel industry, so he was being a real fucking dick about not being able to pass anything that would help with climate change. And Kristen Sinema was getting a whole bunch of money from massive corporations. So I guess her entire incentive was just to be a stick in the mud and try to slow down Democrats' process, and then she would be able to get some sort of high-paying no-show job when she left office. Now, I think that it is, I think it speaks well of Biden and the Democratic Party that despite those disadvantages, they were still able to pass a lot of really incredible legislation. The Inflation Reduction Act brought inflation from 9% back down to 2.4%. It was also the largest investment in green energy in our nation's history. And the fact that they got Joe Manchin to sign off on that is evidence of their cunning and insane governing ability. Like, I don't know why anybody refers to Democrats as being feckless and ineffective when they got Joe Manchin, who is bought and paid for by the fossil fuel lobby, to vote for and pass the largest investment in green energy in our nation's history. And they also passed the Chips and Science Act, which brought high technology manufacturing back to the United States. The PACT Act, which increased healthcare access for veterans, lowered healthcare costs, canceled $170 billion worth of student debt. But as far as like getting a tax plan in place, I guess that was just like one too many things that they would not have been able to do. And then in the 2022 midterms, the Democrats lost the House because people voted for Republicans for some fucking reason. And then at that point, any attempt at passing legislation was basically dead in the water. Alrighty, your favorite tanky says, why do liberals believe a world where queer, non-binary black workers build the bombs helps Palestine? Your favorite tanky, I do not think that you were here in good faith. That's not a good faith question. It also your syntax is terrible, so I don't even know what point you're trying to make. Master Liberty, good to see you again. Let's see here. What is your opinion on balancing federal powers and state autonomy and how that interacts with federal statute concerning mandates? Not referring to vaccine, but just legal definition of a mandate. I mean, the balance between states' rights and federal rights and federal laws, I should say, is it's difficult, it's complicated. There are lawyers who write entire treatises on that, and I don't know where the dividing line is. I believe that it equates to more, I don't know, specific and holistic items. So for example, like abortion bans, kicking it back to the states is not working, because now there are states that have like zero OBGYNs because of that, and there are women who have died just because of the state that they cannot afford to move out of. It just happens to be the one that they got pregnant in. But I don't have a problem with the fact that other laws have been primarily the purview of the states, like where certain recreational activities is concerned. I think that seems to be completely fine, in my opinion. All right, so scrolling down to the bottom here. Luke Walton says, why are Democrats too sympathetic to criminals? I don't think that they are too sympathetic to criminals, Luke. And if you believe that, then I think that you have swallowed some propaganda by accident, because the big criticism that people have of the Democratic Party on the left is that they are too aggressively for mass incarceration. They often bring up the 90s crime bill and, like the Clintons and Biden talking about super predators or whatever they were fucking called. So yeah, I think that there is a, speaking as a Democrat, I can tell you that there is a smart way to decrease crime, and it has nothing to do with increasing penalties or increasing prison sentences and stuff like that. You want to talk about like actually solving the problem? Kamala Harris reduced recidivism rates in California. So she was reducing crime at the same time that she was not just creating a system where people go to jail and when they leave jail, they have no other option but just to do more crimes. All right, scrolling down the bottom. What's up, Michelle? Good to see you again. Colin says, do Democrats in general support or stand against capital punishment? I think that there are the majority of people who are against the death penalty are Democrats. Though I don't believe that every Democrat is against the death penalty. I am personally against the death penalty. All right. Marcia says, why do Republicans insist that there was an open border under Biden? Because of propaganda and misinformation. It is powerful. It is extremely well funded by the billionaire class, by fucking Vladimir Putin and the Republican Party that is working hand in hand with them because they believe in party over country. All right. Hey, John Krause. Lindsey Graham today endorsed Trump for Pope. Would this be an alpha or beta move for Trump if and when he accepts? Good to see you, John. I miss you. I wish I was hanging out with you right now, my man. All right, we have got very few people watching compared to my other live streams, and B-Man says, "Yo, can I join?" All right, B-Man, you can join. Let's see here, but you're gonna ask. You got to be cool, B-Man. All right. So my thing. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. We'll see how this goes. All right, B-Man. How's it going, B-Man?
I promise I'm cool.
All right, what can I do for you?
So I was just looking to see and ask you one question, man.
What's up?
Do you think that Obama is responsible for repropagating propaganda in the United States? Yes or no?
No, absolutely not.
What would lead you to believe that?
The Obama administration was just doing the work of government. They were not focused on messaging strategy, and as part of the reason why they got their asses kicked in the midterms is because there is a massive coalition of shady ass billionaires that were funding huge, sinister propaganda narratives that were taking down things like the Affordable Care Act and targeting vulnerable Democrats. And so where Obama entered office with this like massive mandate and insane popularity, it just disappeared by the time the midterms came around. And that is entirely the fault of a collection of billionaires who expressly wanted to destroy the Democratic Party so that they could install more business-friendly, anti-regulation Republicans in government. There's a book about it called Dark Money that I would highly recommend that you check out.
Dark Money, you said?
Yeah, Dark Money by a woman named Jane Mayer, Mayer.
Okay. I'll definitely have to check that out. That's actually quite interesting to kind of like I don't know, kind of have the timeline of how that worked, you know?
Yeah, it's infuriating because I lived through this, and when Obama got elected, I was like, this is great. Everything's going to be so much better. We're all on board now. And then it seemed like the world just completely shifted for no fucking reason. And then reading this book, I was getting pissed off because I was like, oh, that's the fucking reason. Fucking billionaires did that. Of course they fucking did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I will say I'm very, very, very uneducated on the subject. But I will say that I feel like I've heard somewhere that in Obama's 8 years,
Mhm.
that somewhere in there he had like passed a bill or something like that, that basically made it so legacy media is able to do modern journalism based off of opinion and stuff like that. And I like the thing, and the reason why I kind of asked that question was,
Mhm.
is for me in my personal understanding, I feel like ever since, and I don't know the exact date, whatever, but I feel like ever since that specific administration, I feel like the legacy media and the media as a whole, it doesn't matter if it's left, right, or center wing, it doesn't matter. They're all over the place. And now you have multi-billion-dollar organizations that are broadcasting to all American citizens, and they're extremely opinionated on both sides.
I know exactly what you mean, and I don't want to, just beat a horse to death here, but so first of all, I don't know what legislation you are referring to where Obama made it so that legacy media could publish more opinion. Honestly, that doesn't track for me at all. Like, I'm pretty keyed into the things that happened during the Obama administration, and that is like, it sounds real sus to me. If somebody tells me like what bill it is and I can look it up, I can give you more information on it. But yeah, that sounds real sus to me. I believe I do not think that that is a real thing. So that's number one. Number two is, where we see this like collection of billionaires who are trying to affect our culture, we are also seeing the rise of social media. And in social media coming up, we are seeing another way where people who are extremely well off and powerful can manipulate narratives in our society. And one of those narratives is in not trusting our various institutions. And one of those institutions is things like legacy media. So where someone like me, who is an avid news consumer, can look at right-wing media and be like, that is extremely biased, that is extremely right-wing, that is extremely inaccurate, and then look at legacy media. And my criticism of legacy media is, you guys are trying way too hard to seem unbiased, to the point where I feel like you are being too harsh to Democrats and not harsh enough to Republicans. So when people tell me that they see like all the media is going crazy, I kind of don't know what they're talking about, and it also feels to me that if someone like yourself believes that the messaging campaign from adversarial nations like Russia and from billionaires has been really effective in getting people to think like, you can't trust CNN, you can't trust the New York Times, you can't trust any media. All you can do is I don't know, you gotta figure it out by yourself and do your own research or shit like that, And that is a tool of splitting society apart, and creating more of a chaos regimen. In which case, when there's more chaos, people get really into authoritarian governments because they just want things to be safe and under control again. Sorry, I kind of spun out there with my answer a little bit, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. But here's the thing where I kind of like a little bit disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I think in my personal opinion, I think it's definitely a good thing to encourage people and to encourage an individual to not like, man, how do I phrase this? To not take like the story that's being put in front of your face at face value. I think it's incredibly useful, and I think it's bare minimum what you need to do as an American citizen to do your own research and all that stuff.
But what does that mean to you? to do your own research.
Like I don't know. Like, let's say, for example, shoot, what's something that I can think of? Like, let's say.
So I'll tell you what I think. I think the move is to get your news from multiple sources so that you can avoid any kind of inherent bias. That is what I consider to be the responsible move for somebody who's trying to figure out what is actually going on.
I completely agree. But then but the caveat to that is when you're flipping from news station to news station, and they're reporting on the same thing, you can, like, it's like, I mean, can you agree with me here? Like flipping from CNN to like Fox News and they're reporting on the same thing. It's like, holy crap. This is obviously way more left leaning. This is obviously way more right leaning.
No, I don't agree with that, man. You know, like if you look at the way that legacy organizations like the New York Times and CNN report on the news, there is a clear effort to try to make the two parties seem as equal as humanly possible. And as somebody who is like an avid news consumer, it is clear to me that the parties are not equal. You know, I see what the Republican Party is doing. It's extreme. It is lawless. It is unconstitutional. It is hurting a lot of people. The climate change argument, for example, you know, the 99% of the scientific community was agreeing that climate change is real and it is a threat. Even the U.S. military was saying that climate change is real and it is a threat. And yet Republicans were going out there and still saying like, we don't know about the science. We think it's all bullshit. We think it's a hoax by the Chinese, etc. And so the New York Times and CNN would take that and take those two viewpoints and say, these are equal. These are just two opposite viewpoints. And I'm like, no, I think that every scientist in the world and the US military and every Democrat and the fact that I can look outside my window and see that it's fucking 1,000 degrees hotter than it used to be, that shows me that one party is right and one party is wrong on that issue specifically, of course. And I mean, I have 1,000 examples of that, but, you know, I can show you articles in the New York Times where it's like, really, like you're equating these things as the same, you know, and softening their language around things that Trump is doing, for example, you know, like the fact that they wouldn't call him a liar for his entire first term, even though he told like more consistent lies, more provably false things than any president potentially in history, you know. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from on that one, my man.
Well, I definitely appreciate. See, this is awesome. This is awesome, and this is what I love about this country because. Like, you and I are definitely politically different. That's a fact, but we're having a conversation. We're having a conversation where this is, I don't know. I love the debate. I love to do all this.
I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to debate, my man. I just want to know, is anything that I'm saying, you know, like moving the needle for you at all? Like, do you think, are you going to check out that book, Dark Money? Do you?
Absolutely.
All right, sweet.
100%, man, and I'm not the type of person that's really closed-minded to big ideas, stuff like that, and being introduced to new ideas and different thought processes and stuff like that. But I appreciate the time, but I'm trying to let you go because I'm about to get to a spot where I'm going to lose service.
No worries, man. Thank you for being you know, civil. I appreciate it, and come back and when you finish Dark Money, let me know what you think about it.
Will do, man. I appreciate the book recommendation again, man. You have a great day.
You too, buddy.
Bye-bye.
All right. So if my wife is still watching, let me know if you thought that was good. Alrighty. I am going to head out of here. Everybody, I just wanted to do a short one today because I just drove 7 hours by myself from Fort Collins to Salt Lake City. So I am tired. And yeah. Rena. Yeah, I know, Rena. Well, you know, we'll see what happens when he reads Dark Money, if he reads Dark Money. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you for all the comments and the suggestions and everything. And, you know, give me a follow on all the various socials. If you want to support me, you can join my Patreon. You can send gifts. You can subscribe. You know, do all the follows and all that fun stuff. And if you have any questions I was not able to get to on this shorter version of my live stream, feel free to hit me up. My DMs are open, and you can email me through my website as well. My regular schedule is usually Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, but I am currently on a stand-up tour, and so my schedule is much more erratic, so you just kind of have to catch me when you catch me. I will be streaming tomorrow because we're not traveling tomorrow, so yeah, look for me then, potentially at my normal time of 11:30 a.m. Pacific, and yeah, take care, everybody, and yeah. I will tell. Let me join my Discord and tell me what you thought about me interviewing that dude or having a conversation with that dude. So yeah, let me know what you think, everybody. All right, take care. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.